Welcome to the Financial Coaches Podcast, where we talk about how to build your practice from startup to scale up while being the kind of coach your clients crave. Finally, a podcast for financial coaches. Here are your hosts, Maria Casillas and Cody Sizemore.
Well, hello and welcome back to the Financial Coaches Podcast. My name is Cody Sizemore. I'm joined here by my lovely co-host, Maria Casillas. And hey, happy 4th of July. I mean, it's a couple days after 4th of July, but you get what I'm saying. We're going to be celebrating some freedom today in multiple different ways. And I'll get into those in just a second. But what I first want to say is, hey, if this is your first time listening, I mean, what an episode to check in. And we're glad that you're here as well. So thank you for checking it out. If you enjoy this episode, feel free to check out more episodes. We have 250 episodes, which is because we just had the 250th anniversary of our country. So we didn't plan that. This is like 4 years in the working and it just kind of happened. So, check out the other episodes. If you like those, give us a follow, share the show, give us a rating, a review. All of those types of things really help, and we don't do any sort of paid ads. So your support is very much appreciated. And if you're the type of person who has been listening for 250 weeks in a row, or 200, or 100, or maybe even 4 weeks in a row, we will still consider you to be what we call our every weekers. And those are the people who, check in every week. They support the show. They get the value from it. And you guys are the people who really help keep this thing going. So we really do appreciate you and your continued support with that. So before we get into anything too crazy, there are two things that I want to say, and then I'll bring in Maria, unless she feels like she wants to chime in and add anything here. The first thing would be, hey, if you are looking for a way to connect with us, there's two ways that you can do that. One is like super duper easy, and the other one's just super easy. I'll start with the super duper easy one, and that one is just getting into our Facebook group. It's free to join. It's you can just type into your search bar on Facebook. You can type it in. It says the Financial Coaches Community by New Money Habits, and this is a really great place to like ask questions. Give us show suggestions, connect with us, connect with other coaches as well, and get their input on things. It's a really good place to build that community and feel like you're not alone in this process, which for many of us, we are solopreneurs and it can definitely feel alone. So make sure you join into that, say hi, introduce yourself, and have some fun. Beyond that, we also wanted to bring up something as well. So in the past, and really for what, Maria, like the last couple years now, right? We've been doing this, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Cool. So over the last couple of years, we've been doing something that we call the Financial Coaches Monthly Meetup. And basically what that is it's just, it's a monthly meeting where we all kind of hop on Zoom and just kind of talk about what's going on, answer questions, build the community even more, and kind of see each other face to face, It's a really cool thing. But over the last several months, we've been doing a lot of listening to people and thinking about things, and really about like the whole role of like what the Financial Coaches Monthly Meetup is and how we're kind of structuring it. And what we've realized is that the meetup works best as like a relationship building and trust building opportunity, and not necessarily a product. Maria, in my opinion, I think that coaches kind of need a place to like connect and ask questions and kind of talk through like what they're experiencing and hear from others who might understand things as well.
I agree. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And because of that, we have collectively decided to remove the paywall from that meetup and open the monthly meetup to all financial coaches completely free beginning in July, which, oh my gosh, we're here, right? This is July, right? So,
Yep.
I mean, if you want to talk about freedom of everything, like freedom because we're America. Yeah, like freedom, like everything, right? We want to completely make this free moving forward. So, this isn't necessarily like, a move away from monetization, I guess, if you could say that. But more so, it's like a move towards trust, you know? And with so many coaches in different seasons right now, including some, I don't know if you saw this or not, Maria, but like the Ramsey program, their RPC, Ramsey
Mhm.
Preferred Coaching thing, I guess
Yeah.
that's ending,
Yeah.
right? So
Correct.
the people who had been utilizing that, but you want to kind of keep the momentum going. This is a really good opportunity to kind of use the meetup to become a welcoming room where coaches can kind of share, anything that they're kind of navigating. So,
Yeah.
and learn from each other or help, you know, help us better understand what kind of support would be the most valuable going forward, all that kinds of stuff. So this is a really cool opportunity, and if it's something that you guys want to take advantage of, you can just follow the link in the show notes. You can, post a question in that Facebook group and say, hey, where can I find this? It sounds really cool. And I want to hang out with you guys because I want some new friends or whatever it might be. Right. And oh, by the way, I like free stuff too. Uh, so yeah, just join us for our new free monthly coaches meetup. And
Yeah.
that's it.
That would be great.
So with all that being said, Bria, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. We're gonna find some more freedom real soon, I'm sure. Looking
Mhm,
to how to help our clients experience a little bit of freedom as well.
mhm.
But no, I'm doing all right today. Thanks for asking.
Awesome, awesome. Um, yeah, I figured that, like, just given the day, the season, whatever it might be, I mean, there's just so much talk about freedom, 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 and I was like, "Well, how can we utilize this episode falling a couple days after the 250th anniversary of America? It's also our 250th episode of this show. How can I, like, play on words here and figure out something to talk about with freedom?" And I was like, well, I know that not all financial coaches, but a lot of them work with people on helping them become debt free. So basically, just kind of talking about like different viewpoints, different strategies of how you can help your clients obtain debt freedom. So,
Hmm.
um, so if you're cool with it, I think that we just jump right into it. What do you
Yeah,
say?
let's do it.
Cool. So, raise of hands, and yes, I'm including you listening to the show. Who here has heard of the Debt Snowball? Sweet. Thanks for raising your hand, guys. And then who here has heard of the Debt Avalanche? Raise your hand. Sweet. If you actually raised your hand, I love you, just so you know. Uh, so those are the two like most common kind of strategies to help people get out of debt. There's other strategies too, and I'll even kind of talk about one that I do myself that's adjacent but a little bit different to these two. Um, but I think that it's worth kind of talking about like the pros and the cons of those two specifically, just because they're the most common. So,
Mhm.
Maria,
Before
in
we
your opinion, oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
What were you
I
gonna
was
say?
just saying, before we jump into that, I would just like to give one caveat. I know that there are some clients out there who might push back on some of this because they really do not believe that they want to get rid of all their debt.
Hmm.
Having said that, what we like to say oftentimes is how to eliminate unwanted debt. Because even if somebody says,
Yeah,
no, I am using this and it's a strategy and, all of these things, that doesn't mean that they want to hang on to all of what they have. And so you can just kind of shift the language a little bit so that they're on board with getting rid of the majority of that and then really just being intentional with why they're keeping what they're keeping. And sometimes you find out that they're actually just being defensive of their debt because it's kind of like a child for us at some point. And they really don't want any of it, but they think that they do. So there's that side as well. But just to kind of help them dip their toe into this, you guys, just say, this is a way to get rid of unwanted debt so that you're
yep.
still putting that in their court as well.
Good caveat. Good caveat. I'm gonna give it back to you.
Okay.
So if we're talking about, let's start with the debt snowball first,
Yes,
right?
sir.
What do you feel are the biggest strengths of doing that? And then also maybe some of like the drawbacks of doing that too.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that one of the main strengths is that you can get a quick win oftentimes.
Big time.
If you are working with a client who is just feeling like everything is absolutely impossible and they need to have instantaneous feedback, which oftentimes we are looking for in this microwave society, then the debt snowball helps with that because it uses your very smallest debt and allows you to pay that off. Sometimes almost instantaneously because if you've got a debt that's, $500 and you've got $500 sitting somewhere collecting dust, then you can just take that and throw it at it and it's
Mhm.
already done. So you kind of be able to check that box. So that's another benefit I think is that it gives you a structure and you're able to check boxes pretty well. So if you're that type A personality and you like that, I think that that is certainly another thing that is good that it's good for. I think one thing that it can be a drawback from it is that it feels like it takes forever sometimes because you've got that nice big win, but also you're not sure when it's ever going to end. But I don't know that that could be changed if you've got a large amount of debt, whether you're doing the snowball or the avalanche. It might just take a long time, and so there's
Mhm.
that. Um, I'm trying to think of another drawback. I know, I think one drawback is that it doesn't really take into account how it affects your monthly cash flow. And that's something that I think you might actually be talking about later for your
Mhm.
caveat.
Yeah.
But it's also something that when I'm working with clients, I am very aware of that because, it is, I think our monthly cash flow is a little bit more important sometimes than net value, whether it's, your net worth or your net debt. Um, so there's that. And I, I, I think that's it for right now. I'm sure we'll have some other discussions
Yeah.
as it
Yeah.
comes up.
I'll just add a couple things as
Yeah.
far as like a pro goes. I mean, you kind of said it, but like it really helps build the momentum, I
Yeah.
feel. You know, if you're able to knock out, 4 or 5 of those smaller debts within the first couple of months, after months of not seeing anything paid off, like it really does help build up momentum, build that fire in a person,
Yeah.
which will then just help when they get to those larger debts. It will help them kind of push through those larger debts, right? So that's definitely a pro. I think that the other con as well. So you mentioned cash flow. Um, the other con of it as well is that it really doesn't take into account interest rates, like at all,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? So, it's very possible that, hey, maybe some of the first debts that you pay off are medical bills, you know, and maybe those don't have an interest rate. But then you have a credit card that's charging you 30% and it has a $10,000 balance that can be difficult to kind of wrestle around, right? So,
Agreed.
mathematically, it doesn't always make the most sense, but I think that the approach with the debt snowball is that it's not necessarily a math problem, it's more so like a mental and emotional kind of thing that we're trying to solve. So that's the debt snowball, and for those who don't know what the debt snowball is, uh, basically what you do is you line up your debts from smallest to largest in the amount that you owe, and then you start attacking them in that order, one by one. And every time you pay off a debt, you free up that minimum payment that's attached to it, which just means that your surplus grows larger and larger. And you just apply that larger surplus every time to the next debt kind of thing. So
Yeah.
that's the debt snowball. That's our thoughts on that. Uh, cool if we move to the debt avalanche.
Yes, with a bridge. And this
Oh,
bridge,
nice.
there are bridge to freedom. No, I'm teasing. This bridge actually, it applies to both the debt snowball and the debt avalanche, which is why I want to bring it up here. But I just think that the very act of writing down every debt that you have and understanding what the interest rate is, which is what you're going to need to do. Even though the debt snowball doesn't take it into account, we do suggest that you write that down. Um, but if you're writing this information down, it makes you aware of what is actually in front of you. And the
Mhm.
very act of doing that, even if you don't attack this debt, like even if you don't use the debt snowball, you don't use the debt avalanche, you don't use any strategy to attack it, just taking the time to write it down and seeing it in front of you, it just gives you a more clear picture of what your situation is. And I think that in and of itself is absolutely invaluable.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. 100%. Cool. Well, if we talk about the debt avalanche, so for those of you who don't know what that is, basically with this approach, you would write out the list of your debts, just like how Maria said, but then you would actually start attacking them in the order of highest interest rate to lowest interest rate. So essentially, if you have something that's a 0% interest, the thinking here is like, well, you're not losing money with interest, so why focus on paying that off now? Uh, and let's instead focus on something like like a credit card, for example, that's going to be charging you 25%, 30%, whatever it might be, because those are the ones that you're losing the most money on, kind of thing.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, the in my opinion, I'll kind of take the pros and cons first, and then you can add if you'd like. In my opinion, I think the pros is that mathematically it makes the most sense, right?
Okay.
Especially with those interest rates, like the more money that you start shoveling toward the ones that have the 25 or 30%, the less money you're going to be charged in interest. And then you can then work on paying those off faster with every extra payment that you make as well. Um, so I think that you save the most money by taking this approach. That's definitely the pro. I think that the biggest con that I can think of is that you might find yourself in a position to where you may not have your first big win for several months because it's very possible that maybe one of those high interest credit cards has a $10,000 balance or a $20,000 balance. And I mean, it's pretty exhausting to try and pay off that type of balance right away and without having any sort of like proof of concept, you know?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, so there's definitely some drawbacks to that on the mental and emotional side. I think that, people have seen a lot of success with this, but you have to be the type of person who is willing to push through that initial big lift if you're in that kind of scenario. So,
Yeah. I think also there are two things that I want to say. One is going back to the idea of cash flow. I think when you are trying to pay off the highest interest rate first, if you have not yet kind of checked the boxes for some of the smaller interest rate, smaller balance ones, then those tiny little monthly obligations will make it more difficult to try to tackle that $20,000 credit card debt.
agreed.
And so that's something just to sort of keep in mind. I'm guessing that some sort of hybrid of this really is the best approach.
Yes.
And I think sitting down with somebody and really helping them to lay it all out is one of the best things. The other thing I want to say about the debt avalanche specifically is that I think it's a less structurally stable approach. And what I mean by that is interest rates oftentimes will fluctuate. So if you're looking at the debt snowball and you're like, this is the amount of our balance each time, you're paying those balances down, but ultimately that structure will stay in place indefinitely. You'll always have the smallest and you always have the largest, assuming that you're not adding more debt to the snowball, right?
Hmm.
But with the avalanche, you might have something that is 0% today and 29% in 15 months because you did a 0% credit card. Or
Yep.
you might have something that, even if it's not one of those changes, it's like you've got maybe a car note that's 3.5%, which is stable, but you've got this other credit card, which is more of a variable rate. And so I think it's just, if somebody is that type who's like, no, I want to do it the right way, and they're very insistent on it being according specifically to the interest rate, it can be a little bit more frustrating because it changes so often. And so somebody would kind of have to be in there and digging. And that's what I mean by structurally not as consistent.
Yep. Yep. That's a really good point, and I totally agree. as well. So, especially with those 0% credit cards, if you don't pay those off before they're due, you get hit with interest on everything, So,
Yeah.
uh, it's a really good point. Really good point. Um, can I share a couple, like ideas and tactics that I've personally been using around this with my clients?
Of course.
Okay. So we've used the word a couple times in this episode so far, and that word has been cash flow. And I'm sure that you've heard the phrase cash is king a lot of times, right? In my opinion, when it comes to coaching my clients, I, I would say 95% of the time, I take the approach that cash flow is king. So it's not just cash is king, it's cash flow
Mm-hmm.
is king, right? Because the more cash flow that they have, the higher probability they have to accomplish whatever they're working on, kind of thing. Um, so the approach that I've taken is in two different ways. The first one would be this: I do like to start off my clients with the debt snowball because I do think that having those early wins and that momentum building is extremely important. Very, very important. But there are certain scenarios to where like there's debts that are similar in balance, but not similar in payments. So, for example, you might have like three different credit cards. Okay. And let's say that one has like a $5,000 balance, the other one has a $5,500 balance, and the other one has a $6,500 balance. So we're just looking at like overall a range between 1,500 bucks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the $5,000 credit card has a payment of like $80, let's just say. And then maybe the $6,500 credit card has a payment of $240, right? So looking at these two side by side, the higher balance credit card is higher by about $1,500, but the payment is three times the amount as
Mm-hmm.
compared to the $5,000 balance credit card.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to go super strict and very traditional with the debt snowball would tell you pay off the $5,000 credit card first. And then after that, pay another $5,500 towards the other credit card before you get to the $6,500 balance one, right? That would
Mm-hmm.
be the strict and traditional approach. I personally think that's dumb
Don't
because
mince
in my
words.
mind, what's that?
Don't mince any words here.
Yeah, yeah. In my mind, it's like, well, if I handed you, $5,000 to $6,000, and I said, Maria, you have two choices here. You can take this money and you can pay off this credit card and free up $80 a month and put the rest towards something else that won't change anything monthly for you. Or you can take this money and you can pay off this $6,500 credit card and free up $240 a month. So, in other words, regarding your cash flow, you have two options: $80 a month or $240 a month. Which
Mm-hmm.
one would you choose?
I would choose the $240 a month, sir.
Ding, ding, ding. We have a
Mm-hmm.
winner, right?
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes it makes sense to manipulate things with the debt snowball, maybe put them slightly out of order for situations like this. So I don't, I don't know if anyone else calls it this. I kind of just like coined the term a cash flow incentivized debt snowball.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the approach that I take with people, and it seems to work really, really well for
Love it.
people.
Yeah.
So,
I'm going to add one more thing in there, just a little bit of a nugget for our listeners. So, there is a process out there. It is not one that I have created, but it is one that I have found to be very useful, and it's called the cash flow index. So, it's doing what you're talking about, Cody, except that there's like a formula. So, any of our listeners who are like, that's great, Cody, that you were able to figure that out. But what if I don't want to take the time to know, like, to really try to, strategize that. There is one additional piece of information that I always get from my clients when we're doing the info gatherings portion of this. We're looking at what is the total debt, what is the minimum payment, what is the interest rate. But we also look at the cash flow index of every single one of their debts. And it's super simple. You guys can just Google cash flow index and it'll probably just pop this up for you. But the short version of it is that you take the total loan balance, you divide that by the minimum monthly payment, and it gives you a number. And any number that's less than 50 is considered an inefficient loan, one that could and should be paid off faster. And any number that's greater than 100 is quite efficient. So once you've got that number, that cash flow index, then we just note that on the info sheet as well. And when you're trying to make some of these decisions in your snowball or in your avalanche, you go, okay, these two are really close. How do we decide which one to go? Then we just look at the cash flow index, and whichever one's the lowest, that's the one that we tackle first.
Got it. Love it. Love it. So just for clarity,
Yeah,
if it's under 50, basically what that means is that it's taking up too much of your cash flow.
correct.
Got
Yep.
it. Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
And over 100 is really good. So anywhere between 50 and 100, those are the ones that like medium, right?
Yep.
But yeah, so in any situation, it's the lowest that you want to pay off first.
Got it. Cool. Yeah. And then I think that the only other thing that I would like to add to this conversation is that you mentioned something earlier about doing a hybrid model,
Yeah.
right? I think that's a great idea. I think that it would be a great thing to start with your clients with the debt snowball to help them get those early wins, to build that momentum, to free up some extra cash flow, all the things that we've been talking about. But at some point, you do want to start focusing on numbers, you know? Um, Once the mental and emotional side of things is like built, I do think it makes sense to switch up the game a little bit and be like, okay, so you're primed, you're ready, you've seen the experience, you've had the experience. Now let's start being a little bit more mathematical with this,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think that like starting with the debt snowball and then maybe transitioning, um, at some point whenever you see fit to the debt avalanche would probably give you the best of both worlds in these scenarios.
Yeah. And I think that gathering all of that information in the beginning truly is the key. Because if
Yeah.
you have all of it in front of you, it's so let me just say it like this, Cody. It is so easy and tempting to say, well, we're just going to start off with the debt snowball. And so let's go. And then later on, we're going to shift things and we're going to move it to where it's more mathematically, efficient for you. That can be overwhelming for our clients, not only because they are overwhelmed with what they have in front of them, but also they might not understand what in the heck you mean by any of those words and terms. And so if we can instead just gather all of that information and then create a strategy that is a hybrid, but it's like we don't say we're starting out with this thing and then we're moving to this one. It's more like this is the Cody way. This is the Maria way. This is the
Hmm.
listener way. Because then and it's for them, and it in your mind, you know that it's sort of a hybrid that shifts from, starting with the smallest one so that they can get that emotional win. And then, you're seeing because you already know the cash flow index, you're seeing, okay, we need to kind of make sure this one kind of gets put in there quickly so that that can remove some of the cash or open up some of the cash flow for them. It They don't realize what you're doing, but it becomes very strategic and it's not something that has to be then just joltedly shifted. I don't even know if joltedly is a word, but we're going to throw it in there. It doesn't have to be shifted so like erratically for them. Like it's just like, oh, okay, I got this. Like this is what Cody set up for me in the very beginning. And so now it's just my plan. So that's the one thing I would throw in there, a little bit different.
Love it. Love it. Awesome. Well, I think we're good for today. Would you
Yeah.
agree? Sweet.
I feel free.
I was about to say, yeah. I mean, like, if you guys listen to this, you're like, man, I feel so free. Or you listen to this and you're like, man, I can't believe that this episode is free. Or I can't believe that meeting up with these people on a monthly basis is free. Well, hey, that's our gift to you, completely free. So You guys just enjoy your freedom in so many different ways, and hopefully your clients can follow suit with you there, and you guys can have a big old party. Um, and we'll catch you guys again next week for another episode of the Financial Coaches Podcast.
See you then.
Thank you for listening to the Financial Coaches Podcast, brought to you by New Money Habits and Sizemore Financial Coaching. Submit your questions to our hosts by emailing podcast@newmoneyhabits.com. Be sure to subscribe to be notified of future episodes and join our growing group of like-minded coaches on Facebook. And until next time, happy coaching.